Alongside Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price. On this Saturday, just got to hear from offensive coordinator Alex Golesh after practice number 2. Brent, clearly he is pleased with where the effort is through two days of practice, both Thursday and Saturday, and specifically gave some praise to a few either position groups or individuals.
Yeah, he certainly did, praising Jabari Small in particular, and a couple of offensive linemen, Cade Mays and Spraggins and Cooper Mays, and some of those guys, Darnell Wright on the offensive line. Again, you've talked about this. We've talked about this, that you would hope that their effort and energy level would be good through the first 2 days. It should be. There should be excitement there. I think there's a plan, though, by this coaching staff, and I think a calculated plan to try to instill some confidence in this group on both sides of the ball. I think there's a definite worry about kind of the battle scars and the wounds that guys have after 3-7, a coaching change, and just how difficult this past season was. As a result, you heard Coach Golesh today talking about they're going slow with the install. They're not going real fast because they want guys leaving the practice field not feeling overwhelmed. They want these guys leaving with some confidence. Josh Heupel indicated the same thing when he visited with the media after practice number 1. So I think there's a little bit of a calculated plan there, but at the same time too, I think in some ways Coach Golesh probably likes the hand he's been dealt maybe a little better than he thought he would like it 2 days ago.
Practice-wise got shifted inside because of the rain, so we weren't able to attend. Again, hopefully, and looking at the weather, it looks like much better weather this coming week, although it may get colder later in the week. This is a team where they're going to leave some of these guys, even maybe if they feel like they're out of position, at the position they kind of left at last season because, hey, as Coach Golesh said, some of these guys like D. Beckwith need to learn a position and not just be like bouncing around like a ping pong ball and never really grasping anything. You've got some wide receivers that haven't played a lot of football at the position. You got D. Beckwith, who hadn't played a whole lot of football at running back. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. But for right now, it looks like, hey, it's kind of status quo as far as position moves.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we kind of heard this in the offseason that they knew D. Beckwith was a really good athlete. They just weren't sure what to do with him. I think through 2 days of practice, Austin, they're probably still not real sure what to do with him yet because he's so different. As Coach Golesh said, you have to adjust your eyes to the fact that your running back is 6'5", which is not normal. But obviously, he likes what D. Beckwith has done. He likes what Evans has done. He mentioned him specifically as well. But, again, I think that they're trying to instill as much confidence as they can in guys. And so you don't yo-yo guys. Don't muddle it up to where they can't figure out what to do, and all of a sudden they're continuing to play slow because they don't know their position. And obviously, the intent is for them to play fast and to gain some confidence.
What's your biggest takeaway from listening to Golesh today? I mean, was there anything that stood out? I mean, I know he talked about certain players, and that's nice. I mean, like that wasn't always the case with previous coaches, not just Jeremy, but other guys that we're slow to, talk about certain kids. But anything else stand out to you today?
Well, I think maybe his most honest answer was with the offensive line when he was like, my biggest concern was about those guys and how fast they could play, what kind of maybe shape they would be in. But he likes what he's seen out of them. He quickly cautioned that they haven't played in pads yet. But I think the biggest takeaway is very similar to what Josh Heupel said. They've found a team. They've inherited a team that's hungrier than people think. Okay, I mean it's a team that's embarrassed by what happened last season, and it's a team that expects better and wants better. And this is a different situation than they walked into at Central Florida. When they walked into at Central Florida, they were winning. Those guys were mad that Scott Frost had left them. To go back to Nebraska because they were rolling and winning. These guys here are looking for somebody who wants to be here, who wants to help them get winning. So I think it's only natural that you find some guys hungry the way that they have found. And again, I think they like the attitude, the way they've approached things. It all changes next week when pads go on. And I thought Coach Golesh at the end of his press conference made that very clear that there's a whole lot more to learn about this football team physically and mentally next week when you start putting some gear on and you start beating on other guys, which they have not done to this point.
That's right. And realistically, if you're going to get shifted indoors for practice, the best 2 days probably are the first 2 days when you're in just jerseys and shorts. So, I think that this team will hopefully be able to get back outside. We'll be able to be there, and we'll get to see some, live action come next week.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I think everybody, we haven't even talked about the quarterbacks, which everybody wants to know about. And I think the reason we haven't talked about, I don't think there's a whole lot of judgment being given to the quarterbacks right now. And Coach Golis said today that, those guys had done a good job processing and getting them in and out of the huddle. But that was probably the group he spoke least about in terms of any kind of specifics. Whereas, some of the other position groups, he mentioned specific names, Austin Pope, how well he's done, or, Velus Jones, or, running backs. He was very generic, vanilla, if you will, about the quarterbacks, other than to say all those guys had processed things really fast. So I think that thing will start to become much more the storyline next week when it becomes a little bit more real.
That's the latest from Tennessee's campus. He's Brent Hubbs. I'm Austin Price. We'll have a photo gallery and video from practice as soon as Tennessee sends that over. And, of course, hopefully we'll be able to be there Tuesday and get our own video for you guys on the General's Quarters and at VolQuest.com.